The storm doesn't whisper your name anymore, it shouts it. From the shadows they ignored to the noise they called nonsense, you emerged with clarity in your eyes and fire in your breath. While they laughed, you watched. While they slept, you studied. When they chased crowds, you chased patterns. And now the world stares, mouths open, jaws hanging, as once again, you predicted it before it happened. You warned them. You showed them. And now the fallout is here. The dust is rising, and you're standing tall through it, calm, focused, and one step ahead. Again. You see, this isn't luck. This isn't chance. This is obsession. This is vision. This is hours no one saw, sacrifices no one valued, a hunger no one could comprehend. You were built in silence, in suffering, in isolation, far from applause. While they craved approval, you craved truth. While they posted, you prepared. While they scrolled, you scaled. That's why they're losing their minds. That's why they don't understand how you keep doing this. You were never trying to impress them. You were training to outlast them. And now you've done it again. If you feel something burning inside you right now, don't ignore it. That's your soul recognizing power. That's your future knocking. So before anything else, subscribe, like, and comment below. Because if this message found you, it wasn't an accident. You're one of the few who are awake. You're one of the rare ones who see what's coming. This voice, these words, they're meant for you. So don't just watch, engage. Join this energy. This is a movement of minds that cannot be silenced. And when the world tries to forget you, we'll remember. We'll rise together. And you'll never walk blind again. Subscribe. Not because you have to, because your future self is begging you to. You predicted it again because you stopped being reactive and became predictive. You stopped asking what happened and started asking why it happens. While they chased results, you studied patterns. And when the cracks in their illusions started to form, you'd already moved on from theory to understanding. You weren't guessing, you were calculating. The future isn't magic, it's mathematics, it's mastery. And mastery doesn't come to the distracted. It comes to those who bleed behind the curtain so they can conquer in front of it. You bled, you broke, and now you're building with bone and silence. They're not afraid of what you say, they're afraid that it keeps being right, that every time they doubt you, they lose, that every time they look away, you grow, and it's driving them mad, because they don't know how you keep doing it, but you do, and you will. Because it's no longer about proving them wrong, it's about proving yourself right. You made peace with being misunderstood. You stopped needing validation. That's when the transformation happened. When silence became your anthem, and solitude became your strength. You saw things not as they are, but as they could be. You weren't hypnotized by the now. You were obsessed with the next. They thought you were quiet because you were weak. But quiet was your weapon. Stillness was your strategy. And when the time came, you moved like thunder. Your enemies aren't your biggest problem. Your vision is. It's too real, too loud, too raw for people who are still lying to themselves. That's why they call you lucky. That's why they roll their eyes. Because if they accept your success is from discipline, then they'd have to accept their failure is from distraction. And they're not ready to face that yet. But you are. You stared your demons in the face. You heard the whispers of your past and still moved forward. You weren't fearless, you were faithful to the path, to the process, and to the pain. Because you knew on the other side of pain was power, the kind they can't fake. You wanted truth, not comfort. Greatness, not company. Legacy, not likes. So now when you speak, the world leans in. When you post, they listen. When you move, they panic. Because they know, whatever you see, it's only a matter of time before it becomes real. You don't chase trends, you see through them. You don't follow waves, you cause them. You don't need permission to be powerful. You are the permission. And now, they know it too. They're not just losing their minds, they're losing their masks. Because your presence forces truth into the room. Your accuracy exposes their apathy. Your clarity reveals their confusion, and they hate that. Because the more you rise, the more they realize how far behind they really are. You predicted it again because you live in a dimension they don't even know exists. While they trade dopamine for dollars, you trade hours for mastery. While they chase speed, you chase depth. While they imitated, you innovated. They copied the surface. You understood the source. That's the difference. And now, you've arrived. Not because the world welcomed you, but because you forced your way in. Not with noise, not with drama, but with undeniable results. With impossible predictions that came true. With uncomfortable truths that became reality. You didn't need them to believe. You believed enough for all of them. That's why they call you crazy. Until you're right. And you're always right. That's what scares them. They don't know your story. They don't know the nights you doubted everything. They don't know the silence that screamed louder than any applause. They didn't see you when you broke, when you fell, when you almost gave it all up. But you didn't. You stayed. You studied. You sacrificed. And now the reward is here, and they call it luck. But luck is what the unprepared call discipline. You predicted it again because you were never playing the same game. While they fought for attention, you fought for alignment. While they worshipped trends, you honored truth. You didn't need an audience. You needed accuracy. That's why you kept going. That's why you kept seeing what no one else could. Because you weren't building for now. You were building for always. And every time they doubt you, it feeds the fire. Every rolled eye becomes fuel. Every scoff becomes a spark. And every time they watch you win, again, they either wake up or fade out. But you just keep going, because this isn't about being right, it's about being ready. Ready for what's next, ready for what's coming, ready for the moment that you were built for. The future doesn't belong to the loud, it belongs to the clear. And your clarity has cut through the noise like a blade through fog. They feel it, even if they pretend not to, because power doesn't need approval. It creates it. And you, right now, are becoming unstoppable. They try to explain it away. Try to rationalize your success with myths, shortcuts, stories they tell themselves, so they don't have to face the reality that while they were distracted, you were devouring books, dissecting strategies, reprogramming your instincts, questioning what everyone else blindly accepted. You weren't trying to be different. You were different. You saw through the surface of things. You didn't want hype. You wanted truth. That's why you keep seeing what's coming, because you look where no one else is willing to. They mock what they don't understand, but you don't need their understanding. You need accuracy, because that's what wins. In this world, it's not the loudest voice that survives. It's the most precise. You predicted it again because you became exact. You became surgical with your focus, ruthless with your standards, unshakable in your values. You didn't just react to the world, you rebuilt yourself until you could predict it. They don't know what it took. The hours you spent obsessing over details no one else noticed. The moments where everyone was relaxing and you were reviewing, refining, recalibrating. You weren't addicted to success. You were addicted to readiness. Because you knew the moment would come, the shift, the collapse, the pivot. And when it did, you'd be the one who saw it first. And now you have. Again. You predicted it again because you saw patterns they ignored, because you don't see problems, you see systems. You don't see chaos, you see codes. And while they react to symptoms, you trace everything back to source. That's the edge. That's the difference between those who get lucky and those who get legendary. You didn't wait to be chosen, you chose yourself. And now the world is trying to catch up to a version of you that no longer exists, because you're already 5 steps ahead. Understand this, they're not just shocked by your results, they're haunted by them, because every win of yours reminds them of their delay. Every accurate prediction you make reminds them of the time they wasted doubting, delaying, deceiving themselves. You don't just show them what's possible. You show them what they could have done, if only they'd moved with belief instead of fear. But that's not your burden to carry. Your job isn't to shrink to make others comfortable. Your job is to expand until nothing can contain you. Your presence is proof that discipline works, that obsession pays off, that being relentless, being focused, being odd to most of the world can lead to power they can't comprehend. That's why they're afraid. That's why they watch in silence. Because deep down, they know this isn't the last time you'll be right. You're not just building momentum. You are momentum. You don't just catch waves. You create them. They didn't believe it at first, but now they don't have a choice. Because the evidence is undeniable. You were early. You were mocked. Then you were doubted. Then you were debated. And now, you're defining the future. Again. And while they scramble to explain your rise, while they stretch for excuses, you keep doing what you've always done. Stay focused, stay humble, stay dangerous. Because the war isn't over. And you're not done yet. Your mind is no longer a battleground. It's a blueprint. You don't get shaken in. You get sharper. You don't panic. You prepare. That's why you're always ready. That's why you never fold. That's why you can walk into any storm and know, without a doubt, you saw it coming. Not because of arrogance, but because of accuracy. You didn't guess. You studied. You sacrificed. You stayed the course. And now, you're not just ahead of the game. You're becoming the game. You predicted it again because your habits are rare, because your thinking is sovereign, because you do the hard things when no one's watching. You say no to comfort. You walk away from crowds. You value alignment over applause. You chase truth, not trends. That's how you keep winning. That's how you keep breaking through. That's why every time the world thinks you've peaked, you ascend again. Because you're not done growing, not even close. They say success changes people, but for you, success revealed the truth. You were always this focused, always this precise, always this relentless. They just didn't see it until the world had no choice but to listen. And now they listen closely. They watch silently, because they know if you say it's coming, it's already too late. You predicted it again And now the panic has started. The shifts are happening. The illusions are shattering. And the silence of those who doubted you? That's not peace. That's fear. You've become a signal in the noise, a map for the prepared, a warning for the blind, and they don't like it, but they need it. They'll never admit it, but your voice echoes in their decisions now. Your clarity shapes their direction. And whether they give credit or not, you're already living rent-free in the minds of those who once mocked you. But you're not here for their praise. You're here for dominion, for mastery, for legacy. Because this isn't about being seen. It's about being remembered. Not for the noise you made, but for the truths you spoke. Not for the trends you followed, but for the realities you foresaw. You predicted it again, because this is what you do. You don't hope things happen. You design what's next. You don't wait for signs. You read the signs others ignore. You don't get ready when things change. You stay ready because you know they will. You're the person people call when everything falls apart, because you were the only one who saw the cracks forming before the collapse. That's power. Not just being ahead, but being unshaken when others fall apart. Because you've already rehearsed the chaos. You've already trained for the turbulence. You've already mapped the meltdown. And now, when it all unravels, you rise. So let them lose their minds. Let them question everything. Let them spiral. You don't owe them explanations. You owe yourself execution. You owe your future the fullness of your power. You owe your legacy your complete attention. Because this path, it's not for the curious, it's for the committed. You predicted it again because you believe deeper than they do. You prepare longer, you study harder, you work smarter, and you endure more. Because this life isn't a game to you, it's a mission. And every mission has noise. Every mission has critics. But you've never let their noise drown your signal, and you never will. So walk forward. Keep building. Stay focused. They'll keep watching. Keep doubting. Keep reacting. And you'll keep predicting. Keep preparing. Keep winning. Again and again and again. You've seen it all before, not because you're psychic, but because you pay attention. You see through the layers they never question. You track the signals others ignore. You notice the shifts in tone, the breaks in rhythm, the cracks in foundations. You don't just look at the world, you read it, like a book you've memorized, like a language they never took the time to learn. And now they ask you, how did you know? And your answer is simple, because I never stopped listening. You predicted it again, because while they were seeking comfort, you were embracing chaos. While they feared change, you studied it. While they clung to illusions, you welcomed reality, even when it was brutal. Especially when it was brutal, because that's the secret no one wants to hear. Clarity doesn't come from comfort. It comes from confrontation. Confronting your fears, your ego, your assumption. And once you confront all of it, the truth becomes unavoidable. So now, when the sky darkens and the ground shakes, they run in panic, and you rise in precision. They're paralyzed. You're prepared. That's the edge. That's the difference. That's why they can't keep up. You're playing a deeper game, one they never trained for. They don't understand that your mind is your weapon, not just because it's sharp, but because it's disciplined, because you don't flinch, because you don't fold. You're not moved by moods or noise or opinions. You're anchored in truth, anchored in purpose, anchored in a clarity that was forged in the fire no one else was willing to walk through. And that's why you keep winning. You predicted it again because you don't need applause to stay focused. You don't need validation to keep moving. Your vision is internal. Your discipline is independent. You don't need them to believe. You just need to build. Quietly, ruthlessly, strategically. And now they look at you and wonder why everything you touch turns to clarity. Why everything you call out turns to truth. Why every move you make seems inevitable in hindsight. But you're not here for hindsight. You're here for foresight. You don't live in reaction. You live in alignment. You don't move for approval. You move for impact. And that's what they can't fake. That's what they can't replicate. Because impact doesn't come from being loud. It comes from being right, from being consistent, from being so in tune with your calling that the world either adapts to you or breaks trying to ignore you. You predicted it again because you're not distracted. You're dangerous. You're not average. You're an anomaly. You're not lucky. You're locked in. And every time they doubt that, you give them another reminder, another undeniable shift, another uncomfortable truth that confirms what you already knew. You're not just playing the game, you're rewriting it. And let's be honest, it's not even fun for you anymore to be right, because you already know what's coming. The cycle, the reaction, the collapse. You saw it, you warned them, they laughed, and then they panicked again. The same script, the same chaos. But this time, you're not even surprised. This time, you don't say, "I told you so." You just move on to the next. You see, your game isn't about being right. It's about being ready. That's the level you've unlocked. You don't care about being the loudest. You care about being the last one standing. And that's what's happening now. They're burning out, falling off, breaking down, because they tried to compete with someone who never even looked at them. You weren't chasing them. You were chasing excellence. They made it a race. You made it a reign. And now they watch you from the sidelines they once laughed from, silenced, shaken, studying, because everything you said would happen, happened. Everything you warned them about, unfolded. Every prediction you made, manifested. And now they can't escape it. They can't unsee it, because your voice has become evidence. Your track record is indisputable. Your legacy is in motion. But don't slow down. Don't soften. Don't seek their approval now. Stay sharp. Stay dangerous. Stay true. Because this path, it's not about being famous. It's about being found by the right ones, the rare ones, the awake ones, the ones who don't just want hype. They want honor. They want heft. They want to build. And if you're still watching this right now, you're one of them. So let me say this again, clearly, directly, with no fluff. Subscribe, like, comment. Not for me, for you. Because this message found you for a reason. Because you're not like them. Because you see it too. Maybe not everything, maybe not perfectly, but you feel it. And that feeling you have, that certainty you can't explain, that's not coincidence. That's your calling. That's your cue. And it's time you answered it. So join this. Lock in. Commit. No more consuming blindly. It's time to build intentionally. Subscribe, because your future deserves it. Comment, because your voice is needed. Like, because this power deserves to echo. They'll ask again next year. How did you see this coming? And you'll smile. Because by then, you'll have seen the next one coming too. You're not just a student anymore. You're a signal, a sentinel, You predicted it again, and they're still losing their minds. Let them.